Pittsburgh.
2025 has seen the release of many movies, leaving me with similar feelings to last year, as I was pleasured by masterpiece after masterpiece, from Ryan Coogler's surprise horror musical, Sinners, to Alex Garland and Ray Mendoza's intense war drama, Warfare. But one thing I was surprised to find out was the announcement of 2023's Five Nights at Freddy's getting a sequel, featuring a star-studded cast from the likes of Matthew Lillard, Josh Hutcherson, and the great Matt Pat, reprising their roles in the continuation of one of modern horror's most famous franchises. And just to get it out of the way, this review will contain some spoilers, so if you're not down for that, it's highly suggested that you return to this review at a later date. Directed by Emma Tammy, the film reprises the roles of Josh Hutcherson as Mike Schmidt, Elizabeth Lale as Vanessa Shelley, Piper Rubio as Abby Schmidt, and Matthew Lillard as William Afton. It also stars Matt Pat, not as a cameo this time, but as Toy Bonnie, Megan Fox as Toy Chica, Kellen Goff as Toy Freddy, and Skeet Ulrich as Henry Emily, and McKenna Grace as Lisa. The story starts off in 1982, in a flashback highlighting the origin of the movie's main antagonist, the Marionette, a vengeful spirit hell-bent on breaking free from the now shut-down Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria to seek revenge against those that wronged her. Fast forward to the events after the first movie. Abby is saddened that she can't be able to see the animatronics again, but she ends up taking hold of a Faz Talker, which serves as a spirit box that eventually leads her to the pizzeria housing the Marionette, in which everything else is going to be set forward from there. The movie calls many homages to the game, even sprinkling in some inside jokes that devout members of the fandom would immediately pick up on. As of right now, the film has been panned by critics, while receiving critical praise from the audience, so that this next portion will talk about what it does well and what it does not. First off, it should be made apparent that this movie on a cinematic level is no masterpiece, or paraphrasing a meme I saw on the internet, as a fan of the games, this movie is absolute cinema. But cinematically, this movie is straight buns. But judging by reviewer and audience reactions, it is very apparent that this movie was not meant to redefine cinema, but to simply serve as a love letter to the fans of the game, or those looking for something dumb to watch. Now to get things out of the way, yes, this movie is marred with errors. In terms of pacing, it stretches out to multiple places over its very fast runtime, from a school to two pizzerias and lastly Mike's house, plus the buffer areas and the Faz Fest event at a carnival, which can be really stringent for a horror movie. In addition, there is also a multitude of subplots that the movie tried to cover, making it feel less like a linear story, but a bunch of three different stories mashed together, from the main story of the Marionette and her rampage, to the relationship between Mike and Vanessa and Abby, the relationship of Abby and school life and the animatronics, and Vanessa's relationship with her family and the Marionette. In terms of an actual plot, it is very messy and at times confusing, especially for those who don't know the lore behind the characters. Like the video games, the movie used jump scares. However, this was amped in quantity instead of quality, which dampened its scare factor, in which I personally haven't been jolted by any that appeared. Lastly, the climax is all over the place as it culminates with the animatronics of the old location to return and fight the toy versions of their characters, ending in the disappearance of Michael Afton, who is revealed to be one of the villains of this story, the dissolution of Mike and Vanessa's relationship, and the possession of Vanessa becoming the new host of the Marionette, propelling the prompt for the third movie. On a narrative standpoint, this movie makes it hard to pin down the central focus, unlike the first movie, where it was made very clear that Mike is a protagonist with Vanessa and Abby as supporting characters, but in this one, it makes it unclear for who the central focus of the movie is going towards, as all three characters essentially act as the protagonist. Multiple other works have done this before with better results, but the way it was executed here made it feel like three movies mashed into one. Overall, it makes sense as to why people say that this movie is horrible on account of it being a narrative mess, but there is an important reason that it is stated that this movie was not meant to be a cinematic masterpiece, but instead a cinematic masterpiece. Putting these criticisms aside, I personally still love this movie, and have even declared it to be in my top 5 favorite movies of 2025, on account that despite its very clear flaws, it is a needlessly entertaining movie. They implemented quite a few jokes that the fandom would get, such as the Freddy plushie, the security breach, the music box, and the spare Freddy head, to name a few. Or, as they say on the internet, those who know ball, know ball. It also featured a couple cameos of MatPat voicing Toy Bonnie, marking his return to the movie as an actual cast member instead of a cameo from a diner, and of course, we cannot forget the return of the great Corey Kenshin as the cab driver, leaving one hopeful of returning in the third one, potentially becoming the Stan Lee, RIP, of the FNAF cinematic universe, for he steals the show every single time. Lastly, the animatronics designs look like they were pulled right out of the game, and getting to see them on the big screen, just like the first movie, gave me quite the nostalgia trip, which is important, because as mentioned before, this movie felt more like a love letter to the fans than a proper movie. To speak a bit on this aspect, it serves as a reminder that the first FNAF games were released all the way back in 2014, making it 11 years old at this point. And on a personal note, I was 11 years old when I first watched the Let's Plays from the likes of Markiplier and Corey Kenshin, meaning that most of the fans are presumably adults. Hence, this franchise holds a very special place in my heart, along with many others, and it clearly shows when I went to see the movie. My theater was packed, and multiple people, including me and my buddies, were cosplaying as the characters from the games, and we saw many people dressed as the Puppet, Mangle, Foxy, Freddy, and Purple Guy, to name a few. And there were so many times that the audience either started cheering, laughing, or even clapping, especially by the end, making the movie feel more like an event, instead of just another horror movie. And that is not a very common occurrence, and that is what I think shines about this movie. Or as they say in K-pop Demon Hunters,
for the fans!
Overall, the execution from the perspective of a longtime fan of the games made fans feel right at home, and before ending this off, they brought back the Living Tombstone to play It's Been So Long, aka my favorite song of his entire discography, in fact, to play in the credits, followed by the post-credit scene of introducing Fazbear Frights and the infamous Springtrap. In conclusion, FNAF 2 is by no means a perfect movie, but focusing on the target audience and the way it was executed, it was a needlessly entertaining movie, or as I describe it, dumb fun for fans of the franchise to enjoy, arguably making it a theater-going experience for the books. However, wanting to take in genuine criticism, I'm gonna have to give Five Nights at Freddy's 2 a 7 out of 10. If we're talking about it as a proper movie, it's probably gonna be like a 4 or 5 out of 10, because like I said, as a movie, this movie is straight buns. But despite that, I still did really enjoy this movie, and I do plan to buy it on Blu-ray when it comes out. But that's gonna have to conclude it for the review for Five Nights at Freddy's 2. So yeah, thank you everyone for watching this review, and I hope that y'all enjoyed the movie as much as I clearly have. But for now, I say to y'all, ladies, gentlemen, everyone in between, and everyone in New Orleans, my name is Cobra, and y'all have yourselves a beautiful night.